Ever since the election, we've heard about this wave of allegedly Trump-inspired harassment or hate crimes. CBS News even pushed Trump to take responsibility for it on 60 Minutes.
When we interviewed him on Friday afternoon, Mr. Trump said he had not heard about some of the acts of violence that are popping up in his name. They're harassing Latinos, Muslims.
I am so saddened to hear that, and I say stop it.
What's interesting about that exchange is it's not even clear what he's taking responsibility for. Just general and completely unsubstantiated claims of harassment. Who is doing the harassing? Who is being harassed? What are the acts of harassment? And crucially, is there any evidence? That's the common element you'll notice in the reported post-election Trump-inspired rise in hate and harassment. A complete lack of verifiability. Consider my favorite example from this week, which I originally saw tweeted from a leader of the Council of American Islamic Relations. Disturbing hate letter received by Muslim woman in Illinois. Dear terrorist bitch, we are writing to you as the newly organized Neighborhood Town Watch. We understand that you currently wear a scarf on your head, and we would like to put you on notice that this will no longer be tolerated in your neighborhood. Now that America is great again, we would like to offer you 2 opportunities to avoid any consequences of your poor decisions. First, you can take your radical attire off and live like all Americans, or your second option, you can go back to the godforsaken land you came from. It reads like a generic hate letter template you can give to anyone with immediate thirst for victimization. Quick, no time for specifics. I need to be a victim now. Dear sir or ma'am, I am writing from your local area to inform you that I think less of you on account of your race and or sex and or orientation and or religion and or creed. In my view, life in this local area of ours would benefit from your absence. Ah, shit, don't forget the Trump letterhead. Ah, perfect. Indeed, this letter's own lack of clarity has contributed to its own debunking, essentially. Its origin has been claimed in many different places, including Illinois, per the tweet that I saw, as well as Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Delaware. Now, of course, that doesn't mean one of these cases can't be true, but if so, you would think that one true case would emerge with verifiable evidence. I've enjoyed reacting to these hoaxes on Twitter, laughing with you guys and getting blocked immediately by their sources for just questioning the accuracy of these hilarious claims. But I gotta say, I'm a bit disappointed too. The hoaxers of yesterday at least had the ambition and the work ethic to create some fake footage for you to enjoy. Oh, no way. It's Bigfoot. And look, he's making America great again. So come on, fakers, up the production quality. Even though I joke about these claims and have always suspected they are either embellished or outright false, up until now, I just assumed they were at least based on a nugget of truth. There's probably at least a handful of verified incidents of Trump-inspired political violence or harassment on which these claims are based, right? I mean, it's always on the news, at least.
And when questioned recently about some supporters inciting violence after the election, he said this.
I say stop it.
If national news is reporting it, I assume someone has done all the work of compiling these reports and all their associated evidence, right?
Simply saying stop it is not enough.
Richard Cohen represents the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has counted more than 700 reports of hate crimes nationally, like offensive graffiti and racial slurs, since election night.
Oh, well, great. The Southern Poverty Law Center did it for us. The same group that said Ben Carson is an anti-gay extremist and Ayaan Hirsi Ali is an anti-Muslim extremist. The same group that apologized to Ben Carson for its irresponsible exaggeration of his stances. Good to see we are basing broadcast reporting on the issue on the objective, sourced, verifiable evidence provided by the Southern Poverty Law Center. SPLC finds 701 incidents of hateful harassment since Election Day. How are those collected and sourced? News articles, social media, and SPLC's own submission form, which of course could not be abused in any way. But fine, at least they're making an effort to gather data from news sources, right? That at least adds one more layer of scrutiny and vetting to this list. But what's the common element in the news stories they link? This community center was tagged with graffiti. No suspects. This home was tagged with a swastika. No suspects. This urinal was tagged for whites only. Well, I'll be damned. No suspects. In fact, not one of the 701 incidents the SPLC is reporting is independently verifiable. Not one is supported by evidence, and not one is conclusively a politically motivated attack inspired by Trump against a minority. SPLC says, don't worry, they've got deeper analysis coming, but I have to think if they are holding evidence to support any of these claims, there would be no reason to conceal it in this preview. Now, to be fair, no suspect in a case doesn't mean fake. But let's consider the theory we're supposed to believe, that there's some secret society of timid but hopeful bigots emboldened by Trump's election, but only enough to express themselves under the darkness of night. Not openly. And they've done so with such amazing coordination, such flawless execution, that not one of them has been caught in the act. That's what we're supposed to believe. Now, here's an alternative perspective. Is it more likely that these stories are intentionally unverifiable, intentionally unclear, indeed, in several cases, intentionally not reported to the police who have to do their own investigation on social media? Is it more likely this hysteria these people amplify has emboldened not bigots, but hopeful trolls who love to see everyone losing their minds? Are we really dealing with a national wave of ninja Klansmen with flawless, stealthy execution? Or are we dealing with the hysterical antics of recreational victims and opportunistic trolls? What's stronger in this country? Real hate or the thirst for victimization? Ironically, just like them, I don't have the data to make a conclusive claim. But just like them, I do have one anecdote. I saw on Twitter a writer for Mike soliciting stories with this prompt. If you're a person of color, Muslim, and/or LGBTQ and have been attacked by a Trump supporter, DM or email me, safe space. And that got me curious. Since she's asking, let's send her a story. Let's see what type of vetting goes into this process. I recruited the most decorated troll I know, famous Canadian YouTuber Holy Bijou, to draft a story that perfectly toes the line between silliness and believability. And here's what he came up with. Emailing this writer from the address colvilleprincess@gmail.com, claiming to be a Native American woman in Washington state. I was leaving Starbucks when I got bumped at the door by a Trump supporter. I ended up spilling latte on myself, but he gave me the glare like I did wrong. I said, you can at least say sorry, and he replied, just walk away and be lucky that coffee is the only thing of yours that spills. You shouldn't even be in this country, and you won't be for long. He must have thought I was Mexican because I am dark, but I am Native American. I told him so, and that we were actually here first. His reply was, doesn't matter, white is right, and pushed by me. And after 5 minutes, this author responds not with questions, not with interest in vetting the story, but with a request to share on social media. After confirmation, she tweeted it immediately. Now, what's the real genius of this story? There's no way to know if the alleged aggressor was in fact a Trump supporter. That might be a question you would think this writer would ask, but she chose not to before publishing. Bijou, our troll, emailed back 2 days later to volunteer an admission to our writer that there was no way to know the political affiliation of the aggressor. Hi, Sarah. I was talking to a friend about this incident, and she brought up a good point. I don't have any way to confirm that the guy in my story was a Trump supporter. I assumed he was because he was a rude white male, but there is no way to know who he really voted for. So this is an interesting test for our writer. She has now been privately provided information that puts the story into serious doubt. You'd expect an honest person to return some questions or maybe correct the record on her now highly questionable previous tweet, or maybe just delete the tweet entirely. Nope. Instead, no reply to our inbox. As of this recording, that post remains up. And even though I personally told her that we faked this and described in detail how we did it on my podcast, she still responds to people questioning her post with skepticism, as though their suspicions about this post are unjustified. Now, of course, one story represents only one story. But consider this. Our author isn't just some Tumblr blogger or social media star. She's actually published on several legitimate outlets, or at least outlets many people consider to be legitimate. Mike, Vice, The Atlantic, The Guardian, Slate, Huffington Post. Her work spans many topics, including, of course, stories of unsubstantiated harassment. If the scrutiny applied to the story in this case, which to be clear was 0, if that level of scrutiny is sufficient for somebody published by these outlets, what sort of fractional truths or outright lies might we be reading on a daily basis? And to be fair, maybe she does in fact do great rigorous work on her published products. This is only a tweet after all. But there's only one way to be certain, and that is to demand evidence. Even when they call you racist, even when they say that's blaming the victim, even when they tweet you down with a dank Obama gif. At this point, what's the difference between Bigfoot sightings and fake Trump harassment claims? They are both numerous in volume, they are both corroborated only by flimsy testimony, to which we are all expected to just listen and believe, and they are both widely reported. The only difference is it is perfectly acceptable to demand evidence in one case, but not the other. And when evidence surfaces, I will happily abandon my skepticism. Until then, at least try harder on the hoaxes. I want to see grainy, sketchy footage of Klansmen, Bigfoot, and the Loch Ness Monster having a secret lake meeting to discuss their next plans. Get on it. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at Matt C on YT. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.